Did you ever have one of those moments where you ask someone who's done something really impressive, and so you ask them, hey, how did you actually do that? And they say something like this, oh, you know, I read a book and now I have 18 Android apps. And then you respond by doing something like this. Welcome back, XD Crowd. My name is Jayce, and yes, I must apologize for beating on you with my keyboard, but it does express the notion that when you ask someone, hey, how did you do this impressive thing? A lot of the time they don't give you the nitty gritty. Like there's this big gap of knowledge between when they were a beginner or a novice and now when they're like a working professional. Like what happened in that gap? You just can't gloss over that, ooh, I worked hard and read a book. I want more. I want some details. I want some nitty gritty. So we're gonna talk about that gap today. It's all advice for noobs. Now before that, I want to talk about the questions that I'm getting via email. A lot. Most of the emails are asking questions that are already answered in the video that they are referencing. So, because you are not stupid, I can only conclude one thing. And that is that people want not so much the information that they're asking for, because the information can mostly be gotten by a simple Google search or by watching the video that we're talking about. But I think what they want is encouragement. They want their hand held. They want to be told that yes, your situation may be a little bit different than the person I interviewed, but the points are still true. Those truths are still helpful and apply to you. So I can't respond to all the emails, but I think this response here via video is going to answer 95% of their questions. Go back, watch those videos, take notes, ask questions in the comments, but keep going. The book in the dip says don't give up, but it doesn't say never give up. There are times when you're just going in the wrong direction, and the only way to know you were going in the wrong direction was to kind of go through it and prove that that wasn't really the idea. When I was starting How to Become TV, my goal was to interview people in pretty much every career that had a lot of search results via Google. But I realized that that was a horrible shotgun approach, and I had to focus on one career that I was interested in and that I knew there'd be a lot of demand for, so I focused on software development. So there is a time to give up. It's called pivoting or moving to something that's smarter. And then there's giving up just because you're not willing to put in the work. You got to decide which one is there. Because I see in the comments where people are talking about the dip that it's only about never giving up. Well, it's not quite that simple. You should really read the book and check it out. But here we go.
Greatest difficulty is probably the assignments that we get, the major projects for our programming assignments or for the things like data structures and algorithms. Those ones where you look at the project description and you think, is this even in English? And you sit down and then thankfully they provide you a bit of starting code. So like, okay, this is what the base should look like add more code onto it. And you sit down there and you think for hours and hours and you try and type and then you look up Wikipedia, you look up all these other articles and you think, how the hell am I going to do this? And then at some point it just clicks. You think, okay, so this is what we have to do, and here's how we get there. And I think the best way to get yourself out of ruts is to draw pictures, because I think it's something programmers don't do enough. Like they just try to sit in front of the keyboard and mash and mash and mash, and it gets nowhere because all they ever get is error messages spit out. But if you draw a picture saying like, this is what I have here, this is what I need to achieve, then you can fill in the blanks saying, okay, this is the process that goes in this area here.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. The trick, I think, to learning it or picking up as quick as you can is to build something with it. So find a book that you're going to kind of jive with, that it's an app maybe that you're kind of interested in building itself. There's a few of them out there. I might be able to send you a list of them, but kind of give you an idea of exactly what an app you want, and then just try to build it, even though maybe you don't know that much about it already. But just start typing code in there and breaking stuff, and then if you can't, Google's your friend when you break stuff. So like, take the error message you're getting and stick it in Google, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to find the answer on the first few entries on there. Stack Overflow becomes your friend.
Yeah. So you just slog through.
I just slog through.
You just kind of slog through it the hard way.
Yeah, the problem is it's hard. I've been programming since I was 10 years old, so to know what it's like to be like a beginner programmer is hard for me to grasp anymore. So like the simple concepts of programming, if you need to learn those, you can do classes. I'm really against like college. I don't know. I worked with people out of college, and they understand the concepts, but they still have never really built a full-on app. So if you're in college, I would suggest that you like work on an open source project or something like that, so you get an idea of what it's like to become on a project that already has a bunch of code written. If you want to find a job, I mean, because you're 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be starting at a company that's a startup that just started building a product. Normally, you're going to be brought on to help out, especially at the beginning. So you're gonna have to learn to read other people's code and do that kind of thing. So
Interesting. So how did you start? Did you go to university, or are you self-taught?
self-taught. So when I was younger, my dad owned a few software companies, which that kind of helped. But that was before the internet even. So I would just make my dad bring home like, Turbo C books and stuff like that. So I would just read them and
You could find a beginner's book, just like any recommended beginner's book, and just go through it. Of course, you can skip over the stuff that you're sure you know of. So say like one Android book may start off like, here are some Java basics. This is an int, this is a Boolean, blah, blah, blah. You can skip over that stuff if you're confident. When it gets to the more interesting things, try to follow the examples as they show you. So it might say, add this line saying like toast.show, blah, blah, blah. And then you could, once you get that working, once you're sure that works, then you can play around with it a bit. It's like change some of the parameters around, and then like from there expand your knowledge of how to use that particular component that they've just demonstrated. Otherwise, it's just a matter of doing. For example, I set up Android Studio a little while ago, and it's a bit strange getting used to the shortcuts from Eclipse, but I've been going through that along with a simple Android ebook and seeing like, okay, what can I do with this software?
Last year, really wanted to kind of take it to the next level, and I didn't have any experience working with other developers or other programmers. There was no way for me to tell kind of where I was compared to, what would be actually considered a professional programmer. And for me, one of the biggest things was, I guess, kind of underestimating, my own ability to learn as I go. I guess you could say. About 6 months ago was when I landed my first actual full-time developer position at pretty low pay as a junior developer. But it was a great opportunity for me because they knew coming on that, in the particular languages that I was going to program in, I had hardly any experience at all. So that's why they hired me as a junior developer. But so they hired me on, and it was the opportunity for me to, help other people in the company by providing some automation solutions. But it was the opportunity for me to learn as I was doing those types of things. And there are companies, and that's the thing I guess that was difficult to understand, that the companies will actually pay you to learn as you go. When you get hired on with a company as a developer, they expect you to not know a lot of things. It's actually, a big part of the job is doing the research. Somebody has a problem. They bring it to the developer team. They say, hey, we got this problem. Here's what we want to automate. Here's what we want to accomplish. You guys think you can do it? Developers start talking amongst themselves. Hey, can we do it in this language? Can we do it in that language? Well, what about this library? What about this tool? And start going through some different things that different people have heard about. Different things that you might have seen but never used before. And you just kind of go through that research process, and you just start trying things and come up with some prototypes. But the fact is, most of the stuff that I've done so far, I had no idea how to do it before I started it, if that makes sense. So it's just a matter of, trusting yourself and hopefully you have a team to work with, because that's a huge thing. If you're just by yourself in your house as a hobbyist programmer, that's the hardest thing, because like I said, it's difficult lots of times to get the feedback that you need, or to kind of stay on track for a particular project. I have tons of projects when I was a hobbyist that never got completed, or I'd get a prototype done, but never actually have something that I could, release on an app store or something like that was, real professional. So the big thing is just finding some place to work, no matter what it is, no matter what the pay is. You've got to be able to get into a place where your full-time job is to, develop.
Ow.